Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Power of Practice. I'm Lisa Witter, and we're here just for another episode. And thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't already subscribed on YouTube, please do that, and you can be updated on when these episodes are released, which is quite often actually. And also join me over on Facebook, on my Facebook page, which is Lisa Ingalls over on Facebook. All right, so today I want to talk about the 3 keys really to becoming the true you. I think we can all agree that it seems like, and I think it's true, that there is amongst so many of us this deep yearning and this deep desire to be more, to express more, not just for ourselves, but to give more of ourselves, serve, be in service to something greater than who we are, and to give those gifts to something bigger than ourselves. Yet so many people don't quite know how to do that or where to actually direct that yearning that they have. So there's this feeling of being stuck. And, I think a lot of us have also committed ourselves to study and have been spiritual seekers, have had a spiritual practice for a long time, but we still feel this sense of not quite being sure about how we fit into the grand scheme of things. And then because of that, we find ourselves aimlessly searching all over the place for, the right place, the right cause, the right movement to be a part of, the right community to be a part of, so that we can give our gifts. But eventually what happens is I see so many people resigning themselves because it all feels disconnected from this deeper sense of purpose and how does it all fit together, right? Maybe you yourself get distracted by the complexities of just living day-to-day life. How many of us don't? We have jobs, we have families, we have kids. And so often what happens is people end up abandoning that excitement and desire that was actually bubbling, percolating up inside of themselves. Sometimes people give up on the longing to make a difference in the bigger piece of the whole because it just feels hopeless. There's this sense of despair that, I'm frustrated trying to figure this thing out. I don't know quite who I am, and I don't know how I fit into the bigger scheme of things, so I'm just going to give up. And yet, despite all of that, there might be this underlying, it's sort of like this conflict on two sides, right? You feel that despair, and at the same time you feel this urgency, but I still have to do something, and I don't know what it is. So it causes us to feel anxious. And so what I want to talk about today is these 3 keys to really finding our way towards fulfillment on all levels, and sort of give you this high picture of how can we find that fulfillment mentally, emotionally, spiritually. How can we find it personally and even collectively. And I had the honor of working for the last years of her life, of Barbara Marx Hubbard's life, with her, and working very closely with her and also with Mark Goffney. And I had the privilege to teach a year-long course with the two of them called the Planetary Awakening Accelerator. And so what I'm going to speak into today actually comes from my behind-the-scenes discussions with them, who are 2 world leaders in this movement of evolutionary spirituality. So I want to just pay tribute to them and a little bit of what I'm going to speak into today. So in that program, we talked about 5 pieces, but today I just want to talk about these 3 pieces because I really think that they're the essential pieces. So the first key in all of this is being able to answer the question, who am I? It's a question that, people have been trying to get to the bottom of for centuries, for eons, right? For millennia, actually. So the first key is really to know who we are. In order to affect long-term sustainable change within ourselves and within society, it's not just about having these insights about who we are. You can read all this pop psychology, these books, and go, oh yeah, that's who I am. Or, answer questions. It's not just about insights. My husband always says to me, insights will get you across town, but they won't get you through town. And it's so true, because just having an insight means nothing. You need to have a genuine understanding, a true gnosis, a true knowledge of your identity. What does that mean? Gnosis, true knowledge, means that you have the felt, lived experience of it. And in our third key, we'll talk about that, because there is a way to get gnosis, to have that true felt experience of who you really are. So that's key 1. Key 1 is to be able to answer the question and have a solid understanding, a solid knowing of who you really are. The second key then is to understand and to know the true nature of reality. And one of the things that I learned in working with Barbara and Mark over the last several years was that while pre-modernity and modernity gave us this vision that really drove personal transformation, it drove innovation and progress, what's happened is in our modern world, actually our post-modern world, it's really failed to give us anything more than this laundry list of shortcomings. And it's not left us in a good place, honestly. If you watch the news, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, you're watching CNN or Fox News, it doesn't matter. I think we all find ourselves feeling lost, personally and collectively. We're unable to effectively move towards a future that feels promising on both the personal and the collective levels. So the truth is that we find ourselves actually faced with this perilous future. We find ourselves faced with this potential devolution of our species and the planet unless we can actually have this deep understanding of the nature of reality and our place in it. And so by doing that, by being able to understand the nature of reality and our place in it, we can begin to answer the other really important questions, right? The first important question is to be able to answer is, who am I? But the other important questions that we all come up against sometime is, what's my purpose? Why am I here? Is there a bigger divine plan for me in all of this, or isn't there? So when we have this set of interrelated insights between that first key, knowing who we are, and that second key, knowing the true nature of reality, it allows us to begin to link together these pieces of information that didn't previously make sense to you. Right? And then you start to gain this profound sense of understanding of who you are and how you fit into the greater whole. And this deep realization, it allows you, when you have this deep realization, it allows you to finally take decisive action in your life. You're able to share your gifts because you know, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. And you do it with this profound sense of clarity, of peace, of joy, of total fulfillment. Right? So those are the first two keys. And then the final key, which I alluded to earlier, you can't do any of this. As I said earlier, insights will take you across town, but won't get you through town. So you need to have both insights, but you need to have gnosis. You need to have felt experience, knowledge about the true nature of who you are and the nature of reality, but that can only happen through the power of practice, what I like to call the power of practice. And that's our third key, the power of practice. So I want to be clear that practices in and of themselves don't create change. And this is what I have said for many, many years. And when I had my previous iteration of the Power of Practice show, I always used to say it's not about doing certain things, it's about doing things in a certain way that creates transformation, that creates change. And so you'll hear me say that a lot. But practices in and of themselves don't create change. Yeah, you may have done a lot of practice in your life. You may be a yogi and you're on the mat every day. You may do meditation and prayer and journaling and visualizations and all of that stuff. Yet just because you might have this fleeting moment of revelation or what you think is enlightenment every now and then, it really doesn't mean you're enlightened or totally awakened. I hear it all the time. People say, I had an awakening experience. I think it's important to recognize that an experience doesn't mean that you're completely awakened or that you're completely enlightened. It actually takes committed practice, long-term practice. So what I mean by that is, again, that practice isn't something that we do mechanically because it's in our schedule there. And my Google Calendar says, oh, it's time to go to my yoga class, or it's time to go meditate, or I'm going to journal every night. Practice isn't about doing things mechanically. It's about, like I said before, doing things in a certain way. So if you aren't experiencing transformation, if you're still feeling stuck, if you're still feeling a sense of hopelessness and despair and not understanding your part in the picture, in this story, the role that you play in this lifetime, and you're doing practices, it's probably because you aren't doing your practice correctly. It's because you're not doing the practice in a certain way. I'm going to divert because this always reminds me of the years that I spent teaching marketing to people and the technology of marketing and people of online marketing, and people would say, it's broken. This platform is broken. It doesn't work. And 99.9% of the time it's user error. It is not the fault of the technology. It's the fault of the user. The user isn't doing it correctly. And it's a great analogy actually for the power of practice. If it's not working for you and you think, yeah, I've tried meditation before, it doesn't work for me. Well, that's because it's user error. You're not doing it correctly. So when practice is done correctly and it's performed over a long time, a sustained period of time, like your lifetime, right? What's going to happen is it's going to reinforce that resonant frequency of those insights and that knowledge that you have about who you are and the nature of reality, so that they become actually a part of your consciousness, right? It's really cool. So those are the 3 keys I wanted to talk to you about today. But to wrap up this episode, I just invite you to consider these 3 keys to becoming the true you, right? And which of those 3 keys for you do you need to work on? And maybe it's all 3 keys, and that's fine, because in upcoming episodes, that's really what this show is about, is discussing this and giving you guidance and the power of practice to have that type of knowledge, to have that type of gnosis. So in upcoming episodes, we will be discussing more about these 3 keys. So be sure to stay tuned and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. Again, it's Lisa Ingalls on YouTube. When you subscribe, you'll get the notification when a new episode is uploaded to YouTube. And also be sure to visit me over on Facebook and like my Facebook page. So that is it for today. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with me here today, and namaste.